They love to show God's chosen people safe from harm, watching with happy faces as they were proved right to the world. But they never showed the aftermath. They never showed weeping humans crushed and dying in pools of their own fluids. Young men smashed into piles of red flesh. Hi, I'm Michael Leverts, and you're watching Fit to be Read. Abaddon's Gate by James S.A. is Book 3 of the Expanse series and sequel to Leviathan Wakes and Calaban's War. As with each review on this channel, the episode will begin with a spoiler-free review. Following that summary, I'll be sure to announce the 5 likes and 5 dislikes segment that will include spoilers. I also ask that you real quickly tap the subscribe button, tap the notification bell, because we can't get started until you do. In Abaddon's Gate, we have the proto-molecule no longer the mysterious inhabitant of Venus. It's now formed some sort of equally mysterious ring at the far end of the solar system. Everyone is of course curious what the deal is with this ring or gate, from the major powers of the system to individual thrill seekers. Everyone wants to know what's going on the other side of this gate, and what are its plans for the solar system and the humans who inhabit it. The only reference to date is some hotshot kid who slingshots through the ring. The different laws of physics on the other side of the gate make certain that he won't be delivering any feedback. James Holden is not among the curious. He wants no part of the ring. He and the crew of the Rocinante are making major ducats, taking all types of lucrative contract work with their stolenish Martian warship. Stolenish? Yeah, the Martians want their very expensive, very powerful spacecraft back. Let the legal battles begin, because Holden and crew are going to be impounded, and Mars is sending the cops, the judges, the repo man to get back what is theirs. While Holden would very much prefer to not get mixed up in the ring drama, he and the crew are easily manipulated to set a course and join the party. Join the party they do. Oh, and they also have a documentary crew on board. All of our other major players are here too. The Martians and Earth are there, as are the Belters in their fake warship, the former generational ship, the Nauvoo. No longer the Nauvoo, this repurposed Dreadnought-class ship is now the paper tiger, the Behemoth. They're not fooling anyone. They slapped some railguns and torpedoes on this baby and they called it a warship. It's no secret to anyone looking closely enough that firing these railguns would probably split the ship apart. As always with this series, it makes sense to take a look at the different points of view that we have for each chapter. This format has been a staple for the series since the beginning. Holden remains as our keystone or foothold POV. For many, this is the character that feels the most rich and developed. At this point in the series, we do know Holden the most, but it's only because we have 2 books worth of detail, and what we really have is volume and not depth. We still don't have many dimensions to him, but yes, we do know him well at a superficial level. Of course, we will always root for him. That is how it's designed. The rest of his crew is there: Naomi, Alex, and Amos, and some cameos by some version of Miller. In Abaddon's Gate, we have 3 new points of view to get used to, and because we know him, the initial Holden chapters are comfortable, even if uneventful as usual. The best character from the last book, Avasarala, she has no lines in this sequel, and one hopes that she will return at some point. While it takes time for it to heat up, the swapping POVs per chapter still works great, especially in the second half of the book. There's a nice sense of anticipation getting to the end of a chapter, with curiosity to see who will be up next. In many ways, the most significant new character point of view is Melba. Melba is the new assumed identity of Clarissa Mao. Clarissa, sister of Juliet and daughter of the swarthy Jules Pierre. I don't know if he swore, they just wanted to do that, is enthusiastically pursuing total destruction of James Holden. He humiliated her father and destroyed her family, and she wants justice and revenge. Bull, another new character, is an officer in the Belter military. He is a competent, the buck stops here type of guy. He should be the XO or the captain of the behemoth, except that he's an Earther by heritage, and he's at a disadvantage when it comes to leading the Belter crew of the largest spaceship humanity has ever seen. The immense significance and weight of the mission demands precision and politicking. Now, it should be his, but, you know, and Fred Johnson, he acknowledges this, and he leans on his personal relationship and mutual respect with Bull to convince him to take his medicine and accept a less prestigious posting as Chief of Security, and to do everything in his power and in that capacity to just make it work. The character at first looks to be a cliche, but through the novel demonstrates a more dynamic personality than is common for characters in this series. We get the hard-nosed, results-oriented security chief, but we also glimpse a guy who has moments of serenity, introspection, and restraint. He is a man who has lived more life than years of life lived. He has learned and grown from his successes, failures, and experience. It's difficult to get excited about Bull at first because the character does look like a stereotype, but it doesn't take long to see and feel the depth in him. Much of the heightened and exciting emotional moments, high and low, are born from the relationship and interactions between him, Ashford, the captain of the Behemoth, and Mikio Pa, the XO. This is a good spot to point out that Abaddon's Gate is the first Expanse book that lets us develop assumptions about certain main or secondary characters and plays with those connections and then directs us to feel differently about them, or at least question our first impressions. In the previous books, we either liked or didn't like a character, and we kept that impression from start to finish. The last point of view, at least last as far as the order that I'm choosing to mention them, is Anna. Anushka Volovodov is a unique character. She is a lesbian Methodist pastor from Europa with a less than typical theology. She leaves her wife and child to be part of a religious flotilla heading out to the ring. The book's not heavy on religion other than that there are religious characters in the story, and their religion to some point impacts their character. The book does not attempt to make any theological arguments, mostly. If anything, Abaddon's Gate looks at how, despite religion, true character comes out in how these people react in highest stakes crises. Matching or comparing religion to humanity, even if it's just a peek, is nice growth for this series. The most interesting thing about Anna is her capacity for compassion and forgiveness, and the very interesting theological commentary she does make at one point about Judgment Day regarding those damned souls who will be judged in the gleeful, righteous witnesses to that judgment. She is selected by the Methodist World Council to be part of their delegation on the trek. During the trip out, she meets and develops a friendship with Tilly Fagan, whose husband is one of the sponsors and financiers of the trip. Tilly, who you may have guessed, is very wealthy. She also has connections to the Mao family and is another character who may engender one perception at the beginning of the book that is shattered at the end of the story. Another minor character with more page time is Sam. Samara Rosenberg, who is friends and briefly was roommates with Naomi, is the chief engineer on the Behemoth. She figures into a significant emotional turning point in the story. This third installment is another strong read and is just as fit to be read as its predecessors. Yes, the story picks up kind of slowly, but it hits its pace after we've met each character at least once. The second half of the book is the most unputdownable this series has been to this point. To this point, the episode has been spoiler-free. That is all about to change. In the words of Sandra Bullock to Keanu Reeves, stay on or get off. Stay on or get off. Here are, including spoilers, my 5 likes and 5 dislikes for Abaddon's Gate. Like number 1, the entire second half of the book is the most unputdownable a book has been for me this whole year. That's a good thing. The real rah-rah moment is when Bull relieves Ashford of duty, and from that point forward, we just can't look away. Like number 2, Bull directing that Ashford be taken into custody, thus released of duty and command. Sure, this is low-hanging fruit, and I'm not declaring anything surprising. Of course we're supposed to love this moment. This is the great adrenaline release up to this point in the story. Relieve that mother and throw his blank in the brig. What's better than seeing an unqualified leader being knocked from his perch? Of course the authors manufactured all of this, and this is the expected response, and that's just fine. Like number 3, when we first meet her, everything points to Tilly being an uptight snob of upper-class arrogance and privilege. The cliche would be fine and serve its minor purpose, but that she becomes the compassionate aunt cradling Melba's head in her lap, it's a great human moment. This is how to give a minor character depth. Cradling a mass murderer? Nicely done. Certainly better than if she ended up demanding to speak to the manager of the Behemoth. Like number 4, not a love, but a like. Halfway through the book, when we're right in the thick of it with Melba, full-blown psychotic and chasing after Holden, the character is believable enough. If you'd asked me early on in the book if I thought I'd buy in with her being so moved by her father's imprisonment that she'd be hell-bent with destroying Holden in her fury, I'd be at eye roll level 9. Her character is written well enough, though, that we can accept that she's not just hell-bent, but she's all-out psychotic. She's psychotic in a way I'll assume that comes from growing up with rich, neglectful parents, matched with the trauma of losing her sister and then the disgrace of her father. You get this character wrong, and it sinks the whole book. Dislike number 1. They brought back Belter speak with a vengeance. The slang serves no purpose in this story. The intended purpose either doesn't work or it's poorly executed, with the result being several moments of unfortunate distraction to otherwise exciting moments in the story. The action sequences in the story are great because they suck you in, but as soon as the slang appears, the reader is disengaged from the moment and is reminded that you're just reading a story that somebody wrote. Like number 5, there's a great moment when Anna is considering Armageddon, and the glee of the righteous over the destruction of the wicked and God's vengeance on sinful mankind, the damned. This is strong writing for the series. Anna connects this to her present situation. They love to show God's chosen people safe from harm, watching with happy faces as they were proved right to the world, but they never show the aftermath. They never showed weeping humans, crushed and dying in their pools of their own fluids, young men smashed into piles of red flesh. Indictments much, Anna? Damn straight. I noted this like early on, even before the fighting unfolded. How this compassion plays into Clarissa opening the hatch later is just great. I mentioned there not being much dogma in the book, but this moment shines bright commentary on religious hypocrisy. Bonus-like, when the sphere opens up to admit Holden, the value of the implication of the point of view chapters is present. It's exciting to flip and see how many pages of Holden are left and to wonder, is it going to be his point of view? Whose point of view comes next? Will we see Holden as the first witness of whatever's next? Or are we going to be back to Melba? Or are we going to see Bull kind of watching from the outside? It's very exciting for us to consider what perspective we're going to get first for this climatic moment. Dislike number 2. While I appreciate short chapters, the first half of this book felt like something that was sketched out in a neat outline and then little bits of neatly crafted and patterned stories were dropped into each point of view. It moves the story along nice and quick, but it has a very manufactured feel that I didn't get with book 1 or book 2. Dislike number 2. Elaborating. The promise of the new POVs is stale. I took note around 150 pages in that every time I reached a Melba, Anna, or Bull chapter, I had to fight the urge to DNF. I don't mind taking 100 pages to get into a story, but being on book 3, I should be way past that by now. The Clarissa Melba story could not be any more uninteresting in the first half. Dislike number 3. I'm going to go with Ashford. The first half of the book being boring was the big dislike, so this one I can kind of give a pass to, because by the end of the book, Ashford does turn out to be a pretty decent villain. That Clarissa's psychotic break is the more convincing schizo storyline. The writing for Ashford gets dinged a few points. Dislike number 4. We only get the briefest of mentions of Avasarala. It's tasty, but I'm left unsatiated. Dislike number 5. Anna coming to save the day, tracking Melba and entering the Rocinante with good timing. It's a really fun scene, but it drives a little too far into the fantastical in a way that pulls me out of the moment for at least a bit. It reminds me that I'm reading make-believe. The fighting and battle scenes in Abaddon's Gate are really well written. Even great sci-fi books often fail at fight scenes. They're either too rushed or they don't feel immersive. Abaddon's Gate delivers excellent fight scenes, even one with two fronts. How about that two-front battle when we're in engineering in the bridge and then also in the broadcast room? The writers did a great job of pulling us into the action, don't you think? Let me know in the comments if you think so. Abaddon's Gate had interesting new characters and points of view, great immersive fighting, mystery, politics, a dash of religion, was at times unputdownable, and was throughout fit to be read. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Everts. This is Fit to be Read. Please like, please subscribe, please click the notification bell, and YouTube will let you know every Thursday at 1 o'clock when I release new content. Thank you.